was still in the phase of coming out of depression, to be honest. And because I had lost everything the God said was gonna happen.
The story of Job.
Everything the God said happened was gonna happen. Really? I didn't realize I was depressed at the time. Of course, it took me a while to actually realize, like, dang, I wasn't myself. I wasn't my normal self. And I just said, look, God, and I've said this time and time again. I'm tired of being good at everything, and I want to be great at something. Basically, to me, it was like, you hadn't done everything I called you here to do with the real estate. So I was like, all right, God. And so I was like, I'm gonna do it. And literally, I kid you not. Yeah. Literally, this was Christmas break, 2018. Coming out of Christmas break in 2019, my career just started taking off.
What's going on, guys? It's another Real with Neal podcast today, and I have Little Rock Realtors Association Realtor of the Year, father, husband, content creator, motivator, mentor, man of God, Mr. Langston.
I appreciate it, man. It's a good intro, man.
Thank you for coming, bro. And blessing us with your time. And so one of the things, you and I, we had lunch a few weeks ago, about a couple months ago.
Right.
And one of the things that you was telling me that you are from Southwest. You grew up in the Southwest area. Can you tell us about your upbringing? What was life like coming up in Southwest Little Rock for you?
Man, honestly, I'm good. I mean, like, so I grew up in a 2-parent household. Both my parents were educators. I have a sister, and my sister's 3 years younger than me.
Got it.
And so, you know, we've lived in Southwest. We lived in Southwest from the age of 5 until I was about 21 or so.
Okay.
Grew up off of Independence, about 2-3 blocks away from McClellan.
Okay.
Man, I just remember, you know, honestly going outside, hearing McClellan's band play and stuff like that, throwing a little, you know, playing 2-hand touch and stuff like that in the street, playing 21 and Killer Man, and of course football and stuff like that, man. It was a lot of kids on the block. You know, we knew everybody that lived on the block for the most part.
Right.
It was family, man. It was family. So, I mean, I didn't know a difference or anything like that until I got a little older and realized that, like, oh, okay, so this is the area of town that people dislike, you know. People didn't really like, you know, coming out to visit and stuff like that, you know, thought it was too far away and things like that. But, I mean, Southwest is home.
Yeah. I definitely can relate to McClellan band playing. Now, did you go to high school there?
No, I didn't.
Okay, you didn't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I graduated from there in 2006. And so even before I started high school there, I remember, like, as a kid, hearing the band playing in the football games and all of that. Did you feel a way about a new school being there now, and now that McClellan's no longer there?
I feel good about it.
Okay.
Because I feel like it can only bring positivity to the community.
That's
you know?
Right. That's right.
McClellan, J Fair, all of it had its run, you know. But I think, you know, putting in a new system, really newness, of course, brings life. And so typically people don't want to, you know, destroy something that's new, you know, at least initially.
Did you go to high school?
I went to J Fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I graduated in 2000, J Fair.
Okay, got you. So one of the things that I had noticed when I was doing my research that you used to promote events. So I seen comedy events, I seen that different artists was coming. Can you tell us a little bit about that when you were doing that time? Can you talk to us about that?
It was a time. Both good and bad, you know. Learned a lot from it. I got into event promotion stuff from moving back to Little Rock from college. So I went to college at Alabama A&M, came back to Little Rock, and it didn't seem like it was a whole lot going on. You know? Wasn't much to do for, you know, young adults, of course. And so I personally don't like clubbing, never have liked clubbing or anything like that, but I enjoy bringing people together, you know? And so I remember the first event that I ever did was after President Barack Obama was inaugurated.
Wow.
And I forget the name of the event, but at the time, Juanita's was off of Main Street. And so I had that event there. Before I did events on my own, I started helping out a couple of other, guys that was in the city, of course. Towards like Neo Soul type events and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
That I was interested in. And I was like, I want to do this myself as well.
Right.
And so, I just saw a lane that was open and a way to create, the type of events that I personally would like to attend.
Right.
And so I just started creating it. Oddly enough, though, so the type of events that I prefer, cost a lot of money.
Okay.
The type of events that people attend don't cost a lot of money. And so I was funding those, the events with the artists and stuff like that, of course, with the, funds from the parties and events, stuff like that. So, yeah, man, it's, I did that for run from about 2008 to about 14, 15, something like that.
Okay, yeah, you did it for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Club Sway.
Yeah.
Not. So
I had my days at Sway back in the day. Yeah.
I was the man behind the scene responsible for
really?
that.
Yeah. When I was coming up, me and my friends would go out and Club Sway. Yeah.
When they first opened Sway, and shout out to Marcus Pinckney, he ain't gonna see this because he's not on social media or anything like that at all. But Marcus and Jason were owners, and it's still there to this day.
Okay.
But I remember a buddy of mine I went to church with, grew up with, Benny Smith, DJ Silky Slim. So he was one of my DJs at the time, and a good friend of mine, of course. And so Benny hit me up one night and he was like, "Hey, Langston, man, you need to come out to this nightclub, man." So I went.
Okay.
And it was maybe 5 people there.
Wow.
And I remember they had a sign up at the door. It was like $3 entry or something like that,
$3 entry.
And so I was like, man, this is a nice spot, This is like the nicest club that I've been to, of course, in Little Rock. And so talked to the owner at the time. The owner didn't want any events and stuff like that or promoters, because the name promoter had a negative connotation around it.
I already know.
And so I was like, well, hey, look, that's not me. And just introduced myself, of course. And a few weeks later, he called me and he was just like, "Man, you can have whatever event you want, whenever you want to do it, And so first week started off slow. Second week grew a little bit. By that fourth week, it was a line wrapped around the building, and it stayed that way for a couple years or so.
Yeah.
But and this is, I don't know if we have time for this or not, but
you're good.
The reason I said it came with good and bad, of course, is because obviously, being in that mix, it can we've seen sinners, we've seen sinners.
Yes.
And so
good movie, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Great movie,
right? Yes, great movie.
But just being in that mix, man, for me, as not necessarily being used to it, not necessarily being, quote unquote, the man and stuff like that, not necessarily used to getting that type of attention and stuff like that. I'm getting attention everywhere now. Everybody want to rub elbows. Everybody want to know who I am and stuff like that, of course. And I'm just more of a reserved person until you get to know me. But I'm very much an open book, but generally just a little reserved, of course. And so, more and more, people became recognized with me and familiar with me and stuff like that, man. It's just more comes to the table, and, found myself in some situations, of course. And it's like, what, this not for me. This is not for me. I can't continue to do these.
Situation that's in negative.
Got it. It definitely comes along with that if you allow it to.
Got it.
I'm not even gonna say if you allow it to. It's gonna come with it,
regardless. Okay. You're in
And I
that
think that
space,
comes
in that
along with
world.
I think that comes along with honestly fame, familiarity.
Yep.
You know, anytime that a person is somebody, other people want to get to know them. And then there's also going to be people that, you know, want to get to know you in a way that's going to be detrimental, of course. So yeah.
Is that one of the reasons or the reason why you had to get out of that space?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So oddly enough, before I started doing events at Sway,
okay,
I remember being at church. I used to go to Second Baptist in Southwest, and
right off
God Springs.
Yeah, God Springs. Yeah,
by the KFC.
Okay. Yeah, by the KFC. Yep.
So I remember going one Sunday, and we weren't even during the sermon or nothing like that at all.
Okay.
It was during the announcements, and I just got this heavy feeling over me. And I went to the bathroom, and I'm just sitting in the bathroom crying, just like, man, okay. All right, God, I hear you.
Holy Spirit came like that?
Yeah, it just came,
wow.
Man. There's been a couple times where I've definitely heard God talking to me. It's like, okay, this is God talking. And so I remember specifically God speaking to me. It was like, look, Langston, if you want to be, you know, successful in promoting and stuff like that, hey, you got it.
Yeah.
You got it. You can do it. That's fine. He said, but I'm going to tell you what comes along with that territory. I'm going to tell you, you're going to lose some friends. You're going to lose some family. You know, you're going to lose, you know, all the way around. I was like, all right, I hear you. And he was like, but, you know, if you want to be successful in your career, I will make you successful in your career, but you got to wait. You got to wait on it.
Oh.
I was like, all right, God, I hear you. And I remember at the time, you know, going out and I was married at the time.
Okay.
And so I was.
While you were promoting?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I told my then wife, was just like, hey, you know what? I'm done with the event stuff. I'm done with the event space.
Yeah.
And I want to say about 4 weeks later, I got that call from Marcus from Sway. Yeah. It was like, hey, you can have whatever night you want. I was like,
ooh. That's where that temptation comes. Just like that.
Yeah. And I was just like, ooh, okay.
I just had this conversation with God, and now that's what he comes to do.
Yeah. So, you know, I know the type of man that I am. I know the type of man that I choose to be, of course.
Yes, sir.
But I know I'm also a faulty man. You know, I'm not a man without fault. I'm not a man without, you know, shame or setback or, you know, guilt or anything like that, of course. I'm a flawed man, you know. Yeah. But I'm also a Christian man. Yeah. So, you know, whenever I can, you know, talk to other men about stuff like that, of course, man, it's just a space that I honor and appreciate.
How did you and your first wife, how did y'all have an understanding of that lifestyle? Because I know you pretty much was coming home late, and how did y'all navigate during that time?
I mean, she knew that I was well, I take it back, because we were married before I started doing the events and stuff.
Right.
I mean, I think she was supportive of the events and stuff initially, of course. Yeah. But then it became more consistent, you know, and ultimately, I mean, she was fine with it. She just didn't want to attend and stuff like that, you know. And so, me, of course, you know, I definitely wanted, you know, hey, join, you know, come along and things like that. But I mean, I respect the fact that, you know, you don't, you know, and it's just not the space for you, of course. You know, some events, of course, yeah. But again, I'm not a club goer myself. Yeah. I never have been. Not in college, not in high school, not now, you know. And so I had to take myself out of that element and create, I guess, a different version of myself, of course, you know, for even, you know, that time.
I ain't gonna lie, like during my early 20s, that's what I was on, partying, clubbing. And so, man, I think after a while, for me, I didn't really see the value in clubbing anymore. So it's just like, I wanted something like serious, you know what I'm saying, after a while, because we already know what that lifestyle come with. So you know what I'm saying. Even to this day, I just like I don't. Now I don't mind by having fun with my family and my friends in like a private area, but as in going out in public, and I'm not interested in that either. So I feel you.
See, you dance. So I can't even dance, man. Like I got 2 left legs and I ain't got no game, So like that's honestly a reason that I didn't really like, going to clubs and stuff like that. Like I like little kickbacks, something at the house.
That's my point.
Game night, things like that.
That's what I'm on.
But
that's what I'm on.
Man, me in a club, like I remember even in college, like I would just like I never have been a fan of buying drinks at a bar, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would just buy like a beer and just sip on an empty bottle because I didn't want to spend any more money.
Really?
But I also don't want to sit around looking like just twiddling my thumb. So I gotta do something with my hands, And this was before the text and stuff like that or whatever,
Well, you could be able to look at the phone, you know what I'm saying? So I feel you. One of the things that I had seen that you were a teacher for middle school in North Little Rock. Can you talk about that experience? What are some of those things that you learned during that time that you apply to your life now?
It's funny. I actually saw one of my former students today.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I saw one of my former students today, and I walked into the store, and he was cash register. He was like, "Mr. Carr."
Wow.
And I looked over, and I was like, "Oh, snap!" And he was actually one of my mentees.
Wow.
And so, and he wasn't even in my class,
Okay.
He was just drawn to me and vice versa.
Got it.
But I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed and appreciated that experience.
Yeah.
I come from a family of teachers and educators, of course.
Right.
And so it wasn't unfamiliar to me or anything like that at all. At the time I had just really, I was still in the phase of coming out of depression, to be honest. And because I had lost everything the God said was gonna happen happened.
The story of Job.
Everything the God said happened. It was gonna happen.
Really? Was this during the promoting time, or was this after?
This was after.
Okay.
I didn't realize I was depressed at the time. Of course, it took me a while to actually realize, like, dang, I wasn't myself. I wasn't my normal self.
Yeah.
And so, I had lost my job and stuff as well. I was working at the highway department.
Okay, got it.
I didn't like working at the highway department. And so these were all parts of me that like just honestly wasn't fulfilled. And so it was just kind of like a downward spiral. And I didn't know anything outside of working at the highway department. Like I literally worked the highway department. I started interning for them coming out of my senior year in high school.
Wow.
So I started interning through them through the Black Engineers Association.
Okay.
Going into my freshman year in college. And so every summer I came back and worked, of course.
Got it.
And I started working for them full time, of course, after graduation. And stayed there from 2000 to 2016 or so.
Okay.
And so I didn't have another career or anything like that,
Wow.
And so I started picking up little, odds and ends, jobs and stuff like that. And my mom and dad was like, why don't you go into education? Like just go into education. It's a good career, blah blah blah. I was like, all right, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so I said I would do it. I went the non-traditional route, which meant that I had to spend the summer in Jonesboro, basically to get the training in education and stuff like that, of course.
Right.
And honestly, that summer is when I started seeing myself again, and I think it was because I was away from, it wasn't far or anything like that, but it was away from, what was normal.
Yeah, the noise.
Yeah,
I got you.
And so started teaching, of course, and it brought some fulfillment to me. It was also, difficult, of course, because, I'm over at a school in which is largely looks like us, and it's like, man, look, I don't need you to make these mistakes, you know, and I can see the path that you're going right now, whatever, and I'm trying to correct it and stuff like that. But knowing that you can't save everybody is difficult.
Man.
And I would, you know, at times go off into the corner and like, you know, shed a tear or something like that, of course, man.
Wow.
But, you know, teaching is a very, very difficult and fulfilling career.
Wow.
But ultimately, I don't feel that form of teaching was for me, you know, for a career. But all of that said, I promised my parents 3 years, you know, and so I did the 3 years. I was actually a realtor before I became a teacher.
Oh, okay.
And I just wasn't doing anything with real estate. I was just in that depression stage and didn't really know exactly what to do. I was a first time true entrepreneur, even though I was doing events and stuff like that. But the event field is just like, it just came natural for me. And I think it taught me, how to teach and how to convey information over to others, and how to break things down on a simplistic level, you know, so that people could feel comfortable and confident in the knowledge that they're obtaining.
I love that. That's good. And so, the transition from, I know you were speaking about it, you promised your parents 3 years, and okay, now I'm about to get into real estate. Can you talk about not really being active in real estate during that time, and then you just say, hey, I'm about to jump into real estate? What did that transition, that gray area, look like for you? Because just for me, I have been taught, okay, take 6 months of income. This is what you need to do. You need to save that first, and then you need to secure what your lead generation sources are. Now, once I got 6 months of income saved up, I understand what my lead generation sources are. I need to possibly make sure that I'm on a team or have some type of structure, like a job. Then you can be able to jump out as an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was informed. How did that look like for you? What did, or do you just okay.
I think everything that you said comes along with discipline, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's a good order to actually take, of course, you know. And what I mean by order is just like direction and doing things a certain way, of course. But that wasn't me. So again, I had already passed my real estate exam and stuff like that, and I had already sold, you know, a couple of homes. I started real estate field in 2016. I started teaching in 2018. I started teaching in 2018. So 2016, I sold one house. 2017, I sold maybe two. 2018, none. And that's also when I started teaching. So I was gone that summer. I started teaching that fall, and come Christmas break, this was another time that, you know, I just heard God talking to me.
Right.
And I'm living with my parents at the time, of course.
Got it.
And I'm teaching, and I remember being home during Christmas break. It's like, God, I don't know about this.
Wow.
I don't know about this. I don't know if I want to continue to do this, you know. And I just said, look, God, and I've said this time and time again. I'm tired of being good at everything, and I want to be great at something. And I wasn't saying it in a cocky way or anything like that at all.
What do you mean by that?
What I meant by it is like, all right, I was good in my career at the highway department. But it wasn't fulfilling. And I wasn't able to grow. You know, it just kind of keep you limited and stuff, you know. I was good at, you know, marketing and promoting and, you know, while I was working at the highway department, I started learning how to do graphic design and,
Yeah.
web design and stuff like that.
Right.
Because I had a lot of idle time,
Okay.
so
Okay.
it wasn't for them or anything like that at all. But even with that, I took those skills that I learned during that idle time, and like I remember they finally asked me to design the state map one time, the cover or whatever. So I was proud of that little moment, of course. But I think ultimately, for me, going into that Christmas break, I was just like, look, I don't know what I really want to do.
Wow.
I'm good at these things, but I'm not proficient enough to make it a career, or I'm not interested enough to make it a career,
Okay.
or it takes me too much time to do these things or whatever because I'm a perfectionist. And so therefore I know how I am and I don't want to, continue to pursue that. So what is it that you have for me? And I said, I just basically gave it up to him. I was like, look, if it's education, I was like, cool, guy, but like I honestly don't want to be in the classroom. Like, can I be, in the office somewhere,
Administration or
superintendent,
something.
somebody
Yeah. Some
administrative
type of
counseling or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, real estate wise, like I don't really know. And he just said basically to me, he was like, you hadn't done everything I called you here to do with the real estate. So I was like, all right, God. And I said, basically, I was like, look, this is how I talked. I was like, you do your part, I do my part. Like I remember the last time you talked to me, and I remember when I didn't do it. And so I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And literally, I kid you not.
Yeah.
Literally, this was Christmas break, 2018. Coming out of Christmas break in 2019, my career just started taking off.
Wow.
I mean, I don't have anything to truly point and direct it to, honestly, other than faith, prayer, belief. Just I started getting my confidence back.
Yeah.
Through teaching.
Yeah.
And having, some stability and
Yeah.
things like that. And with that confidence, of course, comes some swagger, of course.
Yeah.
And when you're confident, other people are confident in you and things like that, and believe in you, and see, want to follow your direction and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's honestly how it happened. And that year, as a full-time teacher, I sold around 3.5, 4 million.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, I can do this. I can do this. Because, as a teacher, and I was teaching 4 different subjects.
Wow.
A semester. Like not every 2 semesters or something like that. I'm teaching 4 different subjects a semester. And coming home and having to prep for those classes and stuff like that, of course, and grade papers or assignments, or trying to figure out new assignments and agendas, because I'm not a planner.
Yeah.
And that's difficult for me.
Okay.
Like trying to figure out what they're going to do on a day-to-day basis and stuff like that.
I got it.
But then also like needing to attend to your clients and stuff like that, like immediately after school and stuff, of course, and being a father and things like that. So it took up a lot of time. It took up a lot of time and space, but I felt something going in a positive direction. And so that's when I was like, all right, I can do this. I can do this.
So I want to back up a little bit, and around, was it 2016 you got into real estate, you said? Was it, but why real estate?
It was something that so I initially, going into college, I wanted to be an architect.
Okay.
But the school I went to didn't have architecture.
Okay.
And I had a scholarship. And so it was like, hey, you're going where the money is and stuff, so we don't have to pay for stuff,
Yeah.
And so I ended up majoring in urban planning, which is a mixture between architecture and engineering.
Okay.
I didn't know what I didn't know.
Okay.
Urban planning is more city planning, city development, zoning and things like that. And it's not something that I was interested in, infrastructure and stuff like that. Right. I was interested in homes and houses, historic homes and modern homes, all these things, of course.
Yeah.
And so it was just always something that I wanted to do. And I think, honestly, the Lord gives us, he puts little tidbits and visions and stuff in your mind, and, saturates you with thoughts, of course. And I think that it's up to us to, put the puzzle together. So I think the dream is vivid and valid, but you have to piece it together in order to, figure out what's truly for you.
Is that the work part? Is that what you're referring to when you say put the pieces together? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, you got to put the pieces together in terms of the work, but also in terms of like truly believing in the vision. So
it takes belief and work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Faith without works is dead.
Got it. We're talking about faith. How do you deal with fear in your business? Do that spirit ever come up against you?
Yeah.
Meaning, like, we're human. So how do realtors, we're in a sense now that nobody really wants to answer the phone. Nobody want to talk to anybody new because they're scared. Even introducing yourself and letting somebody know what you're doing may be some type of fear there, nervousness. How do you, even if somebody decides to go into a different direction and they don't think that you may be their particular realtor, that may be a fear. How do you deal with that? Does that ever?
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
You ever had
I'm
some
human.
times where you had to overcome that? How did you deal with that?
I'm human. And so absolutely. I mean, and I think there's good fear and negative fear, of course. I mean, fear is around to technically protect us. As a baby, you don't necessarily know what fear is exactly, but there are certain things that, even as a kid, or if you have a dog or something like that or whatever, if you hold them, over something that doesn't have any stability or whatever, they're going to get a little nervous and jump back, and they don't know what's down there. But that fear is to protect them. And so there is a fear that protects us, of course, but there's also a fear that holds us back, from what's on the other side. And what's on the other side could be beautiful. And so, that being said, yes, absolutely, I have fear and concern and doubt and frustration, and all those things, of course. But ultimately, like, I understand that this career specifically is more about mindset than anything else. And so I just had to change my mindset on things. And that's work within itself,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that, when you got in real estate, of course, you heard these things as well.
Man.
And you don't know until it hits you. Like I'm hearing these things, but they're not truly sinking in because I'm not going through that right now, and I'm not open to what you're saying right now because my mind is somewhere else. But again, I was going through, a depressed stage. And so I started off like listening to Quote of the Day show by Sean Croxton. And it was like little 8-12 minute clips or so of different motivational speakers and stuff like that. And little things just start seeping in, as they say, I guess faith, comes through hearing,
Yes.
And so
very true, bro.
These things just started seeping in and seeping in and seeping in. And I found myself every morning like, hey, listen to something positive and things like that. And my mind started slowly just shifting.
Got it.
But even now, yeah, I still struggle with those same concerns and stuff. But I also understand that, like, hey, this is a season. You're gonna get through it. It's gonna be fine. I don't remember if you recall, but like when we did have lunch, I told you, I was like, man, I ain't had a closing since January.
I remember that.
Yes,
I remember that.
And so, like, yeah, I started getting a little concerned. And I remember going home to my wife now, it was like, hey, babe, look, after this month, like, it's gonna be a little tight,
Right.
It's gonna be pretty tight, and grateful for the fact to be able to float from like January through, May or so.
Real, right.
But when you constantly see that account going like this, of course, it kicks some things in place. And man, ultimately, I just know that I'm covered. And
Wow.
that month, I remember, and the thing about it is like I'll talk about my, you know, uh, I'm a very can't think of the word right now.
Transparent.
Very transparent person.
Got you.
Very vulnerable.
Okay.
I don't mind, being vulnerable in a moment, of
Yeah.
course. But like I'll talk about, setbacks, of course.
Right.
And then I'll bring it back with like, something else that's gonna be more positive. So about a few weeks later, it was like, bam, under contract, bam, under contract, bam, under contract. It was like nine in a row under contract. And I was like, all right, God, thank you. It's just like real talk. I mean, it's just
wow.
I don't think there's anything special that I'm doing. I don't think it's anything, more than the next person or anything like that at all.
Got it.
Literally I've met with, several different agents. I remember one specific agent, she had lunch with me and she was just like, your name is always brought up in a room. Like,
Wow.
I see you online. I see you, closing all kinds of stuff or whatever. Like, you're a superstar agent. I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Wow.
I'm not any of that stuff or whatever. She was like, well, what's your morning routine? Or like, if you don't have anything going, like, what are you normally doing? I was like, honestly, trying to figure it out, I guess.
Man.
Or maybe I'll just chill. Like, I don't have, wake up in the morning and, make these calls or, then time block for this and all this other kind of stuff or whatever. I don't have all of that stuff, but I make sure that when I do have work that I do the things that I'm called to do, It's really, I mean, I know that I could be doing more.
You're faithful to that assignment.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of go back just a little bit. One of the things that you were saying that when you were a teacher, you had papers, you had assignments that you had to begin to prepare for those students. I know you said, hey, I'm not really a planner like that. So how are you dealing with the students? I'm sure you had some parents that you had to communicate with about their kids. How is you dealing with that, and also clients and also your own family? So my question is, what does boundaries look like for you in that season or just period? How does boundaries look with clients where you may have a client say, hey, you may have something scheduled with your wife and say, hey, I need to go see this house now. It just hit the market. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate that? Do you have a team or do you have somebody helping you or do you honest with them? Like, how do you communicate that or what's your process like?
It's funny because my wife and I talked about this literally the other day.
Wow. Okay.
We were talking about boundaries.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't know what boundaries were.
Okay.
Until a few years ago.
Wow.
A good friend of mine was basically telling me, like, Langston, you need to put some boundaries in place,
Got it.
And I didn't grow up with all these restrictions and like, oh, you need to time block and you need to be home by this time, stuff like that. I didn't have these type of restrictions or anything.
Right.
I was a good kid, come from a good family and stuff like that. Parents trust me, of course, trust my sister and stuff like that, of course. People around me that I can trust, I've never been in a position in which I felt truly uncomfortable. Okay. Or with people that I felt uncomfortable with or anything like that at all. Yeah. And so I didn't know, like, hey, don't get that close to me because it's going to affect me. I didn't know boundaries like that. And so when a friend of mine was talking to me about these boundaries and stuff, I started actually looking into it, and I realized, I was like, oh, okay, this is why this happened. And this is why this happened.
Right.
And because I didn't do this, or because I opened myself up to this happened.
Got it.
And so I started putting some boundaries over my life,
Yeah.
And I wrote them all down. Oddly enough, when I went on my first date with my now wife, I told her, I was like, hey, look, these are my boundaries.
Straight up.
It was a laundry list of stuff.
Straight
It
up.
was a laundry list of stuff. And she was appreciative, you know?
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
she was appreciative.
That normally run somebody off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it can. But I'm also a very
open book.
Yeah, I'm an open book. I'm not gonna say I'm so direct because I'm not blunt.
Okay.
I'm not directly blunt or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm direct. I'm gonna say what's on my mind.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna speak to you in a way that you hopefully comprehend without feeling, hurt. You know. But that all being said, I didn't really have those boundaries exactly in terms of clientele. I still don't exactly.
Really?
I don't. Now I will say this. I realized that nothing is on fire.
True.
The world isn't ending.
True.
I can get back to you at a later time. And I think there has to be, you probably have to be in more comfortable, I suppose, within your career to truly feel that way. Because being a realtor, it's like you're constantly chasing a rabbit.
Yeah.
You're gonna never catch that rabbit.
Yeah.
You're gonna go into a rabbit hole or whatever. It's gonna be never ending. And you still gonna be chasing that rabbit because once you close a deal, it's like, where's the next deal?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all about helping people, but also understanding that this is your livelihood.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And so, like, when am I gonna have to stop chasing this rabbit? Because it's like a constant, like, okay, good relationship, good rapport built, but now, that chapter has, I'm turning the page.
Yeah.
It's a new chapter. Same thing. New chapter. Same thing. New chapter. So, I just realized that, like, not everybody's for me, and that's fine.
Man.
I don't have to answer every single phone call, and that's fine. I don't have to respond to every single text as soon as you send it, and that's fine.
Wow.
But it does create a lot of buildup in a sense, and anxiety for me, of course, because I look at my phone and it's
now you got 30 messages you got to respond back to. Yeah, I feel you. I get it.
I felt accomplished the other day when I went through my emails and I was just like, all right,
clean it out. Yeah,
I'm down to 0. Cool. Literally the next day it was 80, and I was just like, man, I can't do this, man. I don't want to do it like this. So, yeah.
So, one of the things that you had mentioned, you said, was it 9 closings you got in 1 month?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Well, no. It was not. It was actually 10.
10?
10
okay.
under contract.
10 under contract.
Not all of them closed.
Okay.
Not all of them closed. And some of them were extended into the following month and stuff like that, of course. I think I ended up losing 3.
3
of them. Yeah. And it's just, you got to understand it's a part of, of what happens. And it's things that you truly can't control. It
was 10 under contract, and then 3 of them,
mm-hmm.
and then you close 7.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I wanted to bring to you is, what do you say to somebody that looks at you like, oh man, he got 7 closings, man, and I haven't had 1 all year? So, what are your thoughts on jealousy? Somebody being jealous. A realtor being jealous of another. What do you say to that person that look at you like, man, Langston got another closing, I don't even know how to even get a deal? What do you say to that person?
Is that part jealousy, or is that part just maybe envy? Or because there's levels to it all, of course. There's jealousy, there's envy, there's hate. There's I like what you're doing. How do you get there? So there's all those different things. I don't really know what to say to somebody that's jealous. To be honest, I've never been that person. I've never felt that I gotta have what you have and you can't have it. You know,
Mm.
like if I want what you have, I still want you to have it. Like I want to be there too, you know, or I want a seat at the table as well, you know, or, you know, how did you do this? How did you get here? You know, it's things that you can learn from other people, of course, instead of like hating on another person at all, you know. So personally, I've never understood that, you know. Everybody doesn't get a seat at the table, and it's perfectly fine. Every seat and every table doesn't belong to you. It's not a part of your calling. It's not a part of your life. You know, you could take a seat at the wrong table. And so I don't really know what to say to somebody that's, you know, hating. I mean, other than get a life, you know, because I'm never going to be somebody to hate on you. You know, I'm going to always, you know, be cheering you on and, you know, hoping that you're doing well. And, you know, man, I want everybody in life to succeed.
Wow.
You know, if we have, you know, more people around us that are succeeding, of course, then I think overall we have a better world, you know.
Wow.
But, you know,
how could they turn that if they are interested in turning around? What do they need to do to, instead of being jealous? How do they turn that around? What do they need to do? Is there anything that they can do to turn that mindset around?
One thing that I heard and read that I've held on to is your income, your power, and your influence are a direct proportion to how many people you help in life. The more people that you help, the more your income grows. The more your influence grows. You know, all these things, you know. And then power comes along with it as well, but people tend to abuse power. You know. But yeah, I mean, it help more people. You know, people hate on, you know, millionaires and stuff like that as well, but it's like if they wrote a book and you know, yeah, they may have only wrote one book and it's their memoir or something like that, and you know, it's had over 1 million sales and it's the best-selling New York Times or whatever list, and now, you know, they're wealthy and things like that. Well, guess what? That person, yeah, they were in alignment with what their assignment was, did what they were called to do, produced it, sent it out for the world to, you know, hear, learn from, whatever, and it's touched other people's lives, you know. Just the same with, you know, whether it be an athlete or whatever it may be.
True.
Those athletes are inspiring someone else elsewhere,
True.
you know.
True.
And so it may not necessarily be specifically that like, oh, I'm here to help other people, but if you do what you're called to do and you do what you're supposed to do, then ultimately you're going to be helping somebody along the way.
I feel that. So this kind of a two-part question. Is it actually on the agent when we speak about work? Is it particularly on the firm? Because I've heard different agents. Let me just kind of give you a little bit background on this question. I've heard agents say, hey, it doesn't matter which firm that you're with, you are still responsible because it's your business. So it's on you to be able to do the work and get it done no matter which firm or you're part of. So is it really, does the firm matters, or is it really just on the agent? And if it is, what could they do today to possibly see some business? You know, so that's my two-part question.
The first part of it, you have to be accountable to yourself.
Okay.
You know, you have to be accountable to yourself. Do I believe that the agency makes the agent? Okay. No, I don't.
Really?
I don't. I believe, and I say that because there's too much proof out there that it doesn't matter. Okay. You know, Now, I can only speak for myself in the fact that, like, I've been with 2 major agencies,
Right,
you know,
right.
with Keller Williams and Remax Elite, you know. So I've only been with major agencies, and I haven't necessarily tested the waters of, you know, a smaller brokerage or anything like that.
Right.
But I also feel that, you know, those brokerages specifically may align with me or may give me, you know, the insight that I may need, of
I
course,
see that.
in order to be accountable for myself.
I see that.
You know?
Yeah.
But, you know, am I going to depend on this agency to do something specifically for me to grow my business? No.
Got it.
And it doesn't matter what agency you go to because you still have to be accountable for yourself.
Got it.
Your clients, although they're not your clients, they're the agency's client, but you're the one with the relationship.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And this job is all about relationship.
Got it. And with that, what could they do today after watching this video? They say, okay, I'm inspired. I want to grow my business. I want to get out there. I know I gotta have faith. I know I got a relationship built. What could they do today after watching this video and say, man, I'm looking to probably close something in maybe August or September? What do I do?
Relationship.
Okay.
It's all about relationship. I mean, yeah, you can play the numbers game and go through, you know, your Rolodex and your contacts, of course, and reach out to the 1,500 people that's in your phone. And yeah, you might get, you know, 1 or 2 or whatever, but who's going to actually do that?
Yeah.
You know, not too many people are built that way to say, okay, hey, you know what? I'm going to set aside these next 100 days and I'm going to contact all these particular clients, you know. Not too many people built that way.
Got it.
But I believe that you do have to tell people what you do.
Got it.
And I remember a time in which I wasn't telling people what I did because I wasn't confident in what I was doing.
Right.
You know, and that was that time when I started. You know, when I started my career, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, you know, and I didn't feel confident enough to truly tell someone else, like, hey, you should be a homeowner.
Yes.
Or, hey, I can get your home sold, you know, because I had
Yes.
never sold a home, you know. I'd never gone through that process exactly. I mean, I bought, you know, a home or 2, of course, at that time, but I still didn't know exactly what I was doing at that time, you know. So like it's just there is no magic button. There is no easy button to it or anything like that. But I can tell you though, if you know, nurture the relationships that you actually have, that business will come from it.
Yes.
And that's the difficult part. I mean, because it takes patience.
That's what I was just thinking.
It takes patience, and you can get discouraged.
Yep.
And you can feel like, hey, this isn't my calling.
Yep. Yeah.
And it may not be, you know, for certain people, of course, you know.
Yeah.
But you won't know until you actually try it, you know. I remember like literally going into 2018, that Christmas break.
Yeah.
I was just like, I ain't selling anything this year.
Yep.
And these dues are due right now.
Yep.
And am I just gonna be wasting my money?
Man.
Like, maybe I need to stop this.
Man.
And then another little thing said, look, if you just sell one house, you pay for your dues.
That's true.
If you sell one house, you can, you know, pay for these other things. If you sell one house, then you can build the confidence and the courage to keep going, of course, you know. And so
that's true, man.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
true.
Yeah, you can buy leads and all of it. Like, buying leads personally isn't for me.
Yeah.
And I don't like that agents like tell you like, hey, you know, don't waste your money on this and don't do. You got to do what works for you.
Yes.
You know, and so when I had that talk with God, I was like, all right, God, you do your part, I'm gonna do my part.
Do mine. Right.
And I went ahead and said, like, literally that day, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna connect with Zillow. I'm gonna buy some leads.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they cost, you know. I'm on a salary at the time of $2,000 a month, less than $2,000 a month teaching.
Wow.
And I just didn't have it exactly.
Yeah.
So I was just
Yeah.
like, man, golly, how am I going to afford this? And the leads were only like, I mean, looking back at it now, it's like, dang, they were nothing, you know?
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
time, it was
Like a
like,
lot.
man, that's
Yeah.
$300 a month. Ooh, okay. And so, and crazy part about it is that $300 a month was for like the lowest leads, you know,
Got it.
the bottom tier, you know, leads or whatever.
Got it.
I went ahead and said, all right, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and do this, because I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what, I can just float this, and I don't have to have it directly right now. I can float it. And so I put it on my card. Now, I'm not advising like, hey, go
do that.
you
Yeah, go
know,
get a credit card and do that.
yeah,
Right.
I'm not advising to you know, gain debt, of course,
Yeah.
you know, in order to generate business and things like that. You have to be careful with the spending, of course, that you're doing.
Right.
But I thought about it. I was like, all right, if I just put this 300 on there and I commit to this for the next 6 months, then that's 300, 600, 900, okay, $1,800. If I can't pay back $1,800 in the next 6 months, I don't deserve to belong in this business.
Wow.
And that's what I said to myself. I was like, I don't deserve to belong in the business. If I can't pay this back by the end of 6 months, I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
And so I went ahead to pay for the service. Phone started ringing. Hello, this is Langston. Oh yeah, I can be there, you know.
Yeah.
And so what they created for me was like it forced me to do real estate activities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so you have to do something within your business in order to generate business. I was doing nothing.
I see that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I was doing nothing and expecting a return.
Got it.
But
man,
this made my phone ring, and now I'm forced to go out to different areas of town. I'm forced to like look at, you know, okay, so this part of town is valued at this price. This part of town over here is valued at this price point. This part of town over here is valued at this price point. If this person sells this house, they should be able to make this much or whatever. And that only came through repetition of like, you know, doing the activities.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? And no, not every person that called me bought or anything like that at all, but it gave me knowledge and it gave me confidence. And that confidence spilled over into, you know, the future, of course, you know. And so, you know, I remember at the end of that year when we had the awards, at the time I had switched brokerages, so I was over at Remax.
Okay.
And we stood up. I think they called out a number, of course, for sales or whatever, and they were like, everybody with, you know, this amount of sales or whatever, stand up, of course. And I stand up, and like more than half the room was standing up, and I was just like, oh wow. I'm actually doing pretty good, I guess, because I work full time, and you're a full-time agent. You're a full-time agent. You're a full-time agent.
And I'm along with y'all.
I'm here with y'all. I can do this. I can do this. And that's literally like how I was thinking to myself. I'm like, I got this. I'm good. I'm good. And so like literally everything started kind of taking off. Now I don't, you know, buy those leads anymore because it's like it just wasn't serving me the way that, you know, I personally needed. And I'm also not about to chase you. I'm not for chasing somebody. If you're not ready, like, hey, look, you just call me back when you're ready, because I'm not finna force you. I'm not gonna pressure you. And some people can do that naturally, and they're not necessarily pressuring, but it's like the part of their routine. And, you know,
Yep.
That's not me though, and it doesn't come natural for me or anything like that. And I'm not saying that you have to get out of your comfort zone, or you don't, you know, have to get out of your comfort zone, because you do.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to do things that align with me personally, you know. So, yeah, it just started growing, honestly.
And I got a couple more questions for you. The first question is, man, I see that you are very authentic online. And that's one thing that I had struggled with getting into the business. I felt like I had to be Mr. Professional, and I really didn't feel like I could be myself.
I
Like
got
one of
you.
the things that, when I first got started with real estate, maybe 21, man, you used to like shout me out, and when I would like, I'd be like, man, I got a pre-approved buyer. Then I started doing like a dance because I got a pre-approved buyer. You know what I'm saying? And you were like, dude, that was dope. And then I would have people be like, you don't need to be dancing, that's corny.
Mm.
And so, but with you, man, I see that, hey, man, you had your skits that you were doing. I seen those, you know what I'm saying? You and your wife, y'all do skits and stuff like that. You brushing your hair and like, yeah, the waves coming. So you
see the
big.
hair? Look, I didn't cut. I didn't
I
cut
see
today.
it's
You see the
coming,
hair
man.
coming in
It's
a little
coming,
bit.
man. And so I'm like, you are very authentic and you like different than, what I've seen online is pretty much how you need to get buyer tips, seller tips, but you're totally different, man. And I just like, I was online, I think probably maybe a little while ago, and I seen you was in the bed calling your homeboy, and the homeboy had, cussed you out and
Mm-hmm.
everything, and y'all and laughing emojis all through the comments. And so, how important? The first question is how important is authenticity to you? And the second question is my last one would be, what would you say to somebody that is ready to quit the business? Those are my
Gotcha.
last two.
All right. So going off the first one, authenticity. I believe is extremely important. I believe that you attract the people, of course,
Mm-hmm.
that uh, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. You attract more of who you are,
Okay.
you know. Um, and so for me personally, and I've had those same, buzzes in the ear and stuff like that. Like, oh, you have to be, pristine and
Yeah,
prep
yeah,
and like, oh,
yeah,
I have to show up here with a suit.
yeah.
I remember, um, I remember going on a listing appointment one time,
Okay.
and this is while I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
The home was in North Little Rock,
Okay.
and it was, I want to say, after school. The appointment was.
Got it.
It's nothing for me to wear a suit,
Yeah.
or to wear bow ties, stuff like that. I literally used to still also dress that way in college,
Got it. Got it.
Um, and so it's nothing for me to do that. Um, but I remember going to this appointment, and I remember seeing when you had your first listing appointment and stuff you was talking about it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of remember feeling that way and stuff as well at that
Mm-hmm.
time. And so I could relate. But I remember going there and I felt a little nervous, but
Yeah.
also very confident,
Right.
And I had my suit on, I had my tie on, and I had my leather briefcase
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and it was an older white lady, um, lived over in Lakewood, I believe.
Okay.
And I went in there, she started, talking to me, asking questions and stuff like that, of course. And I'm answering, bow,
Mm-hmm.
bow. Oh, great. Oh, bow, bow. I'm like, man, that was a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I walked out of there like, yeah,
I got that one.
got
Right.
that one. Got
Right.
it. And I want to say like the next day I got a call and she had gone with another agent. And I was like,
What?
okay, well, okay, understand. I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily understand, but I'm
Yeah.
like, what did I do? Like,
Yeah.
I help me to know. And I ask those questions now. It's like,
Mm.
I rarely get turned down or anything like that. And honestly, in most cases, when I'm going on a listing appointment, I walk in as if I already have that listing,
Right.
But also I do that because like, I feel that way because typically I'm not the one reaching out to you. You reached out to me,
Reached out to me. Okay. Yeah.
you know? Um, And so as long as I can convey the information and what your needs are and what your wants are, what your desires are and stuff like that, and I can match your goals, of course, then I feel confident. But in this particular situation, I didn't get the listing. And so I remember maybe about 2 years later,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't even know if it was 2 years, maybe been about a year later. And I ran into a guy, um, and he was like, man, you look familiar. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm used to hearing that. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. You know what? I don't know where you know me from or anything
Right.
like that, but I'm
Right.
Langston, man. Good to meet you. He was like, did you have a listing appointment or something like that at, this house in
Wow.
Lakewood? I was like, yeah. He was like last year or something like that. I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, I remember. He was like, I was actually coming in like after you or whatever.
Wow.
And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. He was like, I got that listing. I was like, that's what's up, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Because again, I ain't finna hate on you. I ain't got nothing to hate on you for. Like, congratulations. I I don't know what you trying to tell me or nothing like that, but congrats, man. And so he started going into the story. He was like, man, he was like, I remember because the lady was like, there was a young black gentleman that came in right before you, and like, just, like answered all of my questions and like was very professional and all these other things or whatever. She was like, but I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable or whatever.
Really?
And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. He was like, she said something about that you had on a full suit and the and the tie and everything. I was like, really? I said, wow, okay. I said, okay.
Is it that she couldn't relate to you?
I think that's what
is
it
that
was.
What it is?
And so, even on my podcast that we had a while back, we talked about the subject of like just knowing where you are, knowing where you are and if you fit the room, kind of knowing your surroundings and stuff like that. So like, if I have like a pristine listing or something like that, I'm probably not gonna, come super casual.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna wear some slacks and a shirt, of course. Okay. I may wear a tie or something like that, of course. But I also realize that it's not needed. It's not necessary.
Really? Okay.
If I have a listing for some land and there's a house on that land and it's in the country somewhere or whatever, I'm probably gonna come a lot more casual. I may wear some jeans or whatever, but with some nicer casual shoes or, a polo knit shirt and I may have it tucked in or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But just kind of knowing the room that you're in, of course, because this lady felt that, a little intimidated.
Yeah.
And that's not the first time that I've been told that before, I've been told that, and not necessarily on sales or anything. Like, I've been told that by other women that I've even dated. Like, you're a little intimidating. I'm like, really? How? Like, what did I do to be intimidating? Like, I'm like, I'm a very realistic person or whatever. I'm gonna tell you what's on my mind and stuff. Like, I mean, like, I don't really know how you feel intimidated by me.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it real. Like, when you and I had lunch, it took me a minute to kind of. I ain't gonna lie. When I had lunch with you, it took me a little minute because I felt like I'm meeting with Langston. I'm like, okay, I'm meeting with Langston. I was like, yeah. I ain't gonna lie.
Stop it, man.
I
don't even know where that comes from, man. I really don't know where it comes from.
I was looking at
perception.
That's what it was, and I'm like, oh man, this heavy hitter, and so I was like, all right, I'll talk to my wife. I said, I'm finna meet with Langston. So and then I was letting her know. I was like, okay. After I, you know what I'm saying, I think I seen what kind of person you were and I read your spirit. I said, oh, let me relax. Because I was looking, I'm like, he doing this, he doing that, he doing it. I'm like, okay, I need to meet. And so when I was like, man, he bro, down to earth, bro, real cool. I'm like, oh, I was real tripping. I was like, really? I can just chop it up with him.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, I was a little at first too, when I first met you too. So now
Well, I probably don't help the fact that what do they call it? RBF. Yeah, I don't want to say it on here.
Oh, okay.
But the resting face.
Oh no, no, it wasn't that.
Well, see, it's like for me, I either am smiling like this when I'm talking, or if I'm just chilling somewhere, my face is like this.
Okay, yeah.
So I may look or feel like, nah, dude, don't want to be bothered right now. Like, this is my face. I don't want to sit around like this all day long. Like, this is just my face,
Yeah. You did do that when we was when we were eating lunch, and I was just like, okay, is he feeling what I'm seeing, or is I bored? So I was just like, okay, so let me.
Nah, man.
I remember
even one of my closest friends. She told me that once,
Okay.
and we worked at the highway department together.
Got it.
She was an engineer, and I was a technician. And so we worked in the same building, and we would pass each other, frequently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, ain't too many blacks or whatever. Like, so,
You
when you
start
see another
speaking.
black,
Yeah,
you
you
just
said
kind
you
of
saw
did the
yeah,
head,
yeah,
that head
nah,
nod or something
right,
like
right,
that or
right, right,
whatever.
right.
For me, I normally like hit a little nod or
Yeah.
something like that in hopes that you catch it,
Yeah.
but I'm also not like, hey, what's up, man? You good?
Yeah.
I'm not that person either, And so I remember being in the break room one day, and she came in, and she asked me, was like, hey, did I see you this weekend? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
What you mean? She was like, were you passing out some flyers or something like that? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, I thought that was you or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's my events or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We got to talking or whatever. And we just sitting there chopping it up. And man, we grew a very powerful and strong relationship with one another, of course, friendship, of course. And I remember her telling me after, she was like, I remember when I first met you, and like I thought you was either standoffish or stuck up or like something. Like, she was like, you completely not that at all. I was like, I don't know why people think that of me, but I mean, I can't change it. I mean, it is what it is. I know who I am personally.
Right.
I can't do anything about how you feel about me or anything like that at all. So it is what it is.
And lastly, somebody watching this and they ready to quit real estate right now. But after watching this video, I'm praying that they're inspired. But what do you have to say to the person that's ready to, man, I'm finna go inactive?
Quit.
Oh, okay.
Quit.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
No, for real, quit.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I want to call your bluff. Bluff. Go ahead and quit. Do the thing that like is on your mind to do.
Wow.
Quit.
Well, yeah, you caught me off guard with that one.
I say it because there's lots of things that constantly go through our minds, of course.
Okay.
You don't want to quit. You don't want to quit. If you wanted to quit, you would have already done it. So why haven't you quit? Because there's still a little bit of hope, a little bit of faith. That little mustard seed in you, of course, is still telling you like, just go another day.
That's good.
So just if you truly want to quit, if you truly want to leave the industry, or if you truly want to, stop whatever it is that you're doing, stop. Why haven't you?
Wow.
Why haven't you, bro? Why haven't you left that relationship? Why haven't you left that church? Or why haven't you like there's still something that is preserving you and keeping you, moving forward. Good. There's still a reason that you're there. And if you truly wanted to quit, if you truly wanted to leave it alone, you would go. You're not tired yet. Sorry if it's not the answer you're looking for, but I mean that's actually, where I'm at.
That's actually perfect. Man, we just got to give you a round of applause, man, for Mr. Langston Carr, man. This has been a great episode of the Neal Podcast with Mr. Langston Carr. I'm so excited that he came today. Wow, this interview, watch this over and watch it again and again, because there's some gems that we possibly missed that we need to, I didn't catch that the first time. Is there anything that you would like to leave them with, a prayer or words of encouragement, anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we go?
So there's a scripture that's been heavy on my mind lately.
Okay.
And I can't recite it,
Yeah.
I can't even necessarily tell you the exact verse or anything like that.
Right.
But ultimately, what it conveys to is that man is called to be a good steward, you know, um, over the things that God has given, you know. And I think a lot of people more so related to income, finances, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's over the things that God has given, you know. You have to be a good steward with the smaller things, of course.
Yeah.
And practice gratefulness. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm perfect with it or anything like that at all, because I'm not. I still have days where I wake up like, I don't feel like doing this. Right. I don't feel like being bothered. Or, you know, I still have negative thoughts and stuff like that. But ultimately, I realize that I'm in control of my thoughts.
Right.
I'm in control of my decisions.
True.
I'm in control of my destiny.
True.
You know? And so being a good steward over the things that God has given, whether that be, you know, your employment, whether that be your income, whether that be your spouse, whether that be your kids, whether that be, you know, the home that you're living in, whether that be the car that you drive, you know, whether that be, you know, the people that, you know, you lead, whether that be the people that look up to you, whatever, you know,
Very powerful.
Just be a good steward.
Wow. Mr. Langston Carr, that's it, man. That is it. Thank you for tuning in for the Real with Neal podcast. Man, thank you. See you soon.